It was a cold winter morning in Tokyo. The trains were running on time, as they always did. The city was waking up with its usual rhythm, quiet, disciplined, almost poetic. Commuters filled the platforms in neat lines, each person wrapped in their own silent world. Among them was Hana, a 27-year-old office worker with tired eyes and a heart that carried more weight than she liked to admit. For 5 years, Hana had taken the same morning train, same time, same platform, same carriage. She always sat on the left side, third seat from the end, next to the window, and every morning without fail the seat beside her was empty. She had grown strangely attached to it, as if the seat itself was a quiet companion. In a city where people avoided eye contact and conversations were rare, this little corner of the train had become her safe space. But 3 years ago, something happened that made that empty seat unforgettable. Back then, she was just starting her first real job. Nervous, inexperienced, unsure of herself. One rainy morning, as the train doors opened, a young man entered, soaked from the sudden downpour. He glanced around, spotted the empty seat beside her, and sat down with a polite nod. His black hair was dripping, his suit slightly wrinkled, but his smile was warm, the kind that makes you feel at ease even without words. For weeks after that, he appeared almost every morning, always at the same stop, always choosing that seat. They never exchanged more than a few words, just soft good mornings, and occasional shared laughs when the train jolted unexpectedly. But something unspoken grew between them. In the crowded silence of Tokyo mornings, their small shared space felt like a quiet world of their own. His name was Ren. He worked at a publishing house nearby. He loved books, especially old ones with yellowed pages. Hana, on the other hand, was still figuring out her path. She admired his calm confidence. He once told her, "Trains are like stories. Everyone gets on and off at different chapters, but some journeys change you." She had smiled but didn't realize at the time how true his words would become. Then one morning something felt different. The air was heavy. Ren looked tired, distracted. As the train rattled across the Sumida River, he turned to her and said softly, "I got an offer in Kyoto. It's a big step for me." She forced a smile, congratulated him, and stared out the window to hide the tightness in her chest. Kyoto was far, their morning rides would end. His last day came a week later. The train felt quieter than usual. When the doors opened at his stop, he stood up, turned back, and said, "Take care, Hana." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. He smiled one last time and disappeared into the crowd. And just like that, the seat beside her became empty again. But it wasn't just empty. It was filled with memories, unspoken feelings, and a quiet ache that lingered for years. Time passed. Life moved on. Hana got promoted, changed apartments, made new friends. But every morning she still sat in the same seat, looking at the empty one beside her. Sometimes she imagined Ren was still there, reading a book, adjusting his glasses, smiling faintly at something only he found amusing. She never told anyone about it. It was her secret ritual. One spring morning, 3 years after Ren left, something unusual happened. The train was unusually crowded, yet the seat beside her was still empty. Just as the doors were about to close, someone rushed in. Hana looked up. It wasn't Ren. It was a little boy, about 7 years old, wearing a blue cap and carrying a backpack almost bigger than him. He climbed onto the empty seat, panting from his run, and gave her a shy smile. Hana smiled back. Over the next few days, the boy appeared again. His name was Haruto. He was a first grader who took the train alone every morning to reach his school 2 stations away. He was talkative in the innocent way children are. He told her about his favorite snacks, his struggles with math, and his dream to become a pilot. Hana listened, amused, sometimes giving him little candies when he seemed nervous. The empty seat wasn't empty anymore. One day, Haruto asked, "Why do you always sit here?" She hesitated, then softly said, "Because someone important once sat next to me, and even after they left, this seat reminded me of them." He nodded seriously, the way children do when they sense something deeper, but life, as it often does, had another twist waiting. One morning in early December, Hana received a letter in her mailbox. No return address, just her name, written in neat handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Dear Hana, I don't know if you still ride the same train, but every morning in Kyoto, when I take the Shinkansen to work, I think of that seat beside you. I never told you, but those mornings were the best part of my day. If life ever brings us to the same platform again, I hope the seat isn't empty." Ren, her hands trembled as she read the letter again and again. There was no contact number, no address, just that message. She wondered how he found her address, perhaps through an old mutual friend, or maybe he simply never forgot. For the first time in years, she cried on the train, quietly. No one noticed. Of course. It was Tokyo, but in her heart, something long buried began to stir again. Winter turned to spring, life continued. Haruto grew more confident, sometimes chatting with other commuters. Hana's mornings felt lighter, though the letter remained folded in her bag like a silent promise. Then one rainy afternoon, almost exactly 3 years to the day Ren had left, Hana rushed to the station after working late. She barely caught the last evening train. The carriage was nearly empty. She sat in her usual spot, tired but at peace. As the train doors opened at the next stop, someone stepped in, shaking off the rain from a dark coat. Hana froze. It was Ren. Older, a little more tired-looking, but unmistakably him. Their eyes met, and in that single glance, 3 years of silence melted away. He looked at the empty seat, then at her, and smiled the same warm smile she remembered. "Is this seat taken?" he asked softly. She laughed through her tears. It never was. He sat down beside her, and the train began to move. The city outside blurred into streaks of light. Inside that quiet carriage, surrounded by the rhythm of the tracks, two people found their way back to the same chapter. And for the first time in a long time, the empty seat wasn't empty anymore.
The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Comment below which story you want to hear next. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.